no thanks.
So like we said, I just remembered that we're going to record it, okay?
Fantastic. That's no problem at all.
So what are the kids' names?
My kids' names are Kat and Nolan. That's Catherine is in high school, so a little bit younger than your ladies, and my son's in 8th grade.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they're older.
I don't know why I imagined them as kids. Maybe because I saw a picture of you with I think Nolan. Maybe I think there's a picture of you together.
Oh, I'm sure there are. Yeah, that's about the only thing I do online. Social media is stuff with my kids. And when I made these videos 10 years ago, they were much smaller, obviously. So yeah, they age as well.
I would like to share the story you told me with the girls about how, because of a sick student, you actually videotaped the entire. I think it's a marvelous coincidence, because if you hadn't, we wouldn't have come to this point where we have you today. So basically, he had one of the students sick, and that's why he decided to film the lectures for him. And then he decided that, okay, I'll start filming all my classes. And that's how we got the amazing lectures on Lord of the Flies. And also, I watched all his videos on Macbeth, all his videos on 1984, all his videos on Lord of the Flies. I'm a big fan, so.
You're my #1 fan.
And
awesome.
After this class, not your only fan. I'm gonna make sure they're all subscribing to the channel.
Yeah, it's fate that we came together, because as your professor is speaking, I had a student who was very stressed out and had to pull out of school for a while, and we were just starting Shakespeare, and some of them had only had Shakespeare one other time in their life, and I was thinking, this girl's going to miss 2 weeks. She'll show up at the Act 5 at the end of Macbeth, and there's no way that she'd be able to keep up. So yeah, I just started making the videos, and then my obsessiveness took over, and I just did all of them, and then I did them for all my classes. And it's really I'll be honest, this is I've gotten comments through the years on the videos, thanking me, and it's very sweet. But this has been the highlight of all of that work and effort and filming and editing and posting in order to meet you all. So I'm extremely honored, and I'm very blessed. So doing this has been a treat for me. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope.
We are already enjoying it. So Dr. Moshir, the head of the department, is on his way. Okay.
Okay.
So if you'd like to sip some water or, get yourself ready, we'll start in a minute.
That works. It's funny. I had to dig my book out. This is my original book that I taught with, 10, 12 years ago. I have so many annotations, pages are falling out, of it. I had to dig it out and start rereading it. My front cover was falling apart, so I had to tape it. I don't know if you can see how shiny it is. But this has had a lot of wear and tear. And in the videos, when you see me reading from a book, it is this book. So it's kind of like a historical artifact, I guess. And I'm so amazed I found it. It was in the first box I looked at, which was amazing to me.
Lucky us, huh?
Well, I'm lucky I didn't have to find a new book and start drawing and writing in it. So all my notes are still here. So it really helped remember and jumpstart the mind a little bit.
When I was a student and we took the novel, the book was very, very, very small, like literally small. And it made my eyes hurt. So I decided that with my students, I'd make it an A4 book so that they can
nice.
Yeah, because I had to wear glasses after the novel class. So now I don't want them to go through the same trouble.
Gotcha.
And there's room for them. I keep telling them, and I hope you would encourage them to keep taking notes while reading, to keep asking questions.
Oh, yeah.
That's what literature is, right?
For sure. Right on. Yeah. Yeah. When I got a question for you, or actually everybody, if you watch the videos, I have a tendency to, if I remember correctly, say, yeah, I'll go to this page, or on this page, this paragraph. That I guess that only works for if you have the exact same edition as I do. did that cause any problems following along?
The difference in pages isn't a lot. I think there are like 7-page gap, but it's like I advise them to read the chapter first and then watch your video, because it makes it easier to find the certain points you discuss.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, always read first before you look at other notes and other online stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to sink in for sure. It's just my opinion.
Would you like to ask the girls? And I know, like, it feels like we already started the lecture, and I'm sorry, but usually people on the other line of the conference don't usually come on time, and we usually have technical issues. So it's been like, that's why it's a miracle that we're on time, you know?
Right.
That's why I think the head of the department isn't here on time, because he probably thought it would not start until like 10 minutes after it started. Yeah, so I apologize on his behalf.
Hey, it's no problem. No problem. I'm awake, so hey, whenever.
Yeah, I feel sorry about that too. You know,
no.
Sorry, but excited, because although, you know, we made you wake up early, at least, you know, we get to hear from you.
Hey, you guys are worth it.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to know about the girls before we begin?
Oh my gosh. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I know, right?
Gosh. How old are you guys here in America? It's, you know, you graduate high school, our secondary school, usually about 18 years old, and then you go to post secondary, which is college, 19, 20, 21, 22. Is that roughly the same age group that you guys are? Yeah. All right, I guess the main question, have you seen Star Wars? Can you see my Darth Vader painting back here? My buddy made that, and I have so many other, well, I don't want to walk around my house with my camera and shake it, but I am a huge Star Wars fan. So that's something I like to, if you saw a lot of the videos, I like to talk about movies and other books and TV shows as they relate to the stories. I like to try, which those are probably dated if they were 10 years ago. So hopefully I made movies that made sense. You know, whether it's bringing up Star Wars or Harry Potter or whatever else. So, yeah, I guess I wonder if, and this is putting you on the spot, but with some of my references in the videos, were they hard to make connections with, being from a different country?
I think they were relatable.
Oh,
so Dr. Mushir Ahmed, he's the
hello, Bob. How's it going?
Hello. Hey, very well. Good to see you.
Thanks a lot for offering to talk to our students here. It's
my pleasure.
It's a great delight to have you here, and I'm looking forward to listening to your talk and conversation lecture on this very important topic.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I hope I don't disappoint. So thank you.
I'm sure you already made an impression on our students. On behalf of myself and on behalf of all my students or my colleagues and students in the English department here at Islamic University, we warmly thank you for offering to talk to us. And just a brief background about the university and about the English department. The Islamic University is the leading university in the Gaza Strip and among the top 3 universities in Palestine. And over 85,000 students graduated from the university. And sort of the jewel of the crown is the English department here in the Islamic University of Gaza. We graduate students in literature and in education and also in translation, majoring in these 3 different areas. Basically, we are very honored to have you here. The teaching staff here in the English department graduated from different universities in America, Britain, Australia, India. I myself graduated from Vermont.
Awesome.
Fulbright scholar from St. Michael's College. I did my master's degree in TESOL. That was like some 20 years ago.
Hey, great.
And, it's always fresh, breath of fresh air to talk to colleagues in the States.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well, we miss you. We miss you. Come back, visit.
I hope at some point I will. So thanks a lot again. I couldn't thank you enough for offering to talk our students, and hopefully you will provide insights on this interesting work of literary work, and students get to benefit from you a lot. And hopefully this is the beginning of sort of like ongoing collaboration with you and colleagues from the US. And because the English department engages all the time with different activities, extracurricular and curricular activities, hoping to bridge distances and offer fresh perspectives on different academic and literary issues. So thanks a lot. And
hey, my pleasure.
Look forward to hearing you again.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. All the best.
Mr. Bob, he likes to be called Bob. Full name is Robert Ahlersmeyer. He has taught secondary English for 18 years. He's a graduate of Indiana University with a degree in journalism and a master's in secondary education. He taught theater appreciation at Indiana University at Fort Wayne for 1 year. He's a father of 2. He's an award-winning playwright and actor when he's not teaching. And I think we noticed that in his videos. He performs what he explains. He enjoys baseball and Star Wars more than it's probably healthy to do. He also started the Star Wars podcast, the new Star Wars shows that have been to analyze the new Star Wars shows that have been released. His YouTube channel has amassed over 5,000 subscribers and is closing in on 1 million views.
Oh, correction. It did. It went over 1 million 2 days ago.
Yeah, and I think you know where that million came from, right?
Yeah, you know what? It did say Palestine.
Good. So we're on the map. Okay, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Would you like me to begin?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fantastic. Again, thank you. We were speaking, a little while ago. So again, I'm very honored. And I've been looking forward to this. At first, when I got an email, I think it was just last week about this, I wasn't quite sure. Well, am I being catfished? Is this real? And I told my kids about it, and they dove into the internet and found all this information. I'm like, okay, I'll respond. And no, I was very flattered, and again, as I was saying, this is a book that I taught a number of years ago. I think probably, well, those were 10 years ago, and I probably taught it only once since then in summer school for some kids. And it's always one of those stories that, I don't like it cold here in Indiana. This is where we're at. It's, 15 degrees outside, and I just hate it. And I always think warm weather. And so the tropical island aspect of this book never really intimidated me, but the savagery and everything kind of does. I really, putting together my notes for everyone, I really wish that you could get through the book, or at least further than where we're at, because there's so many things that I would love to see your reaction to, at the very end. And I'm really trying to be spoiler free. I don't want to ruin it, because I'm so jealous of you guys, and I truly am. Anybody that goes through literature or movies for the first time, you have this reaction that is unfiltered. It's unexplained. It's something that can't be duplicated. Now, you can read it a second time and still enjoy it. You can watch Star Wars again and, oh no, Darth Vader is Luke's dad. You knew that already. If you spoil, oh, there's a spoiler if you haven't seen the movie from 1980. But it's one of those things that you guys are going to go and enjoy, well, hopefully enjoy, but go on this journey that Golding has painted, and for the first time, and you'll never have a first time again with this book. And so it's really important. I'm going to just vouch for this book in general, but academically, it's so important to attempt to read the material on your own without any help, any online websites. There's one we talk about, Spark Notes. is really helpful. But all of that should be secondary. It should be a peripheral learning opportunity. And so when I teach Shakespeare, when I teach novels, I always say just read it on your own, and then go and check your online resources. Go and check the little quizzes they have and take them. It takes just a few extra seconds to do, a couple minutes maybe. And how well did you do? And if you, wow, I didn't get any of that, well, go back and look at it again and try it again. And that's going to be your third exposure to the materials, and it will have to have sunk in a little bit more. Some people are might be quicker and pick up on this stuff easier, and that's something that everybody's just going to have to do their own thing. But I strongly suggest doing it on your own, because if you're just stuck reading summaries, you will not care about the story. It's impossible, because they're just giving you like a shot by shot of what happens. There's no intimacy of characters and connection. You just truly won't care, and it won't make an impression on you. And it's going to be hard to write about and to test about. And with a story like this, with the journey, and especially the last 2-3 chapters, there's just so much to talk about. And if you are behind and you're always trying to get caught up and looking for shortcuts, it's just never going to work out. You just might skirt by and pass and then move on, but you're just missing out on such a rich opportunity, especially with this novel. So that's just my preaching. So I'm done preaching, so there's no more of that. But to start off with the book, William Golding wrote this. I'm not quite sure of the year that it was. I think it was like mid 50s or so. But you have to put an understanding of the time period, the culture. When Jack says, we're English, we're the best at everything. That's a belief, that it's founded on a few hundred years of imperialism control around the world. In the 1800s with Queen Victoria, they were the biggest empire in the world. There was a saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire. This is back then. And that's because their territories were all around the world, and it was always sunny. It never went down and never diminished. But slowly, different of their territories started to seek their independence. India, America, that was kind of a big one. That takes a big chunk away from them. But World War I, they call it the Great War, in the 19 teens. It killed about 1 million British people. And so that they, for an island, they're, well, I don't want to say small because of the British Empire, but, that was a massive generational handicap for them, that going forward, they lost a lot of people and just diminished. And then there was the depression that hit economically. Oh, and then Hitler's going crazy and starting World War II, and they're barely licking their wounds from World War I. They didn't have the power to reclaim their superiority. So that mindset that Jack has of we're British, we're best at everything, maybe a little while ago, but you can see that that's the schooling and that's the expectation. So with this being written in the 50s, it's after World War II, whether it's supposed to take place in the 50s or right after World War II. They talk about the atomic bomb. They're being evacuated because of bombing in their city. And this is something that drove me nuts. I don't know if it's a plot hole. I don't know what happened here, but they're in England. Okay. And you're familiar, that's on your side of the world. They're in England, and they're evacuating a bunch of school kids. They get shot out of the sky and they land in the Pacific Ocean, halfway around the world on a tropical island. That seems strange to me. I didn't understand why they were. So you flew over America and didn't stop, or did you go the other way and didn't stop? India, China, Japan, something. Well, Japan might not have been good if this is during World War II, supposedly. I don't know. But that was always something. I'm just like, I don't know, just there's a thing, just say, in especially movies when they just get crazy. Like there was a, I don't know if you've seen the Fast and the Furious movies, but the Vin Diesel Rock movies, the race cars. Well, this last one, they had they were out in outer space in a car. I mean, you just have to suspend disbelief. It's just ridiculous. It's not meant to be analyzed. And so with this story, that's one of the things I'm like, okay, don't think about it. They're just in the Pacific Ocean. Just forget it. Don't overthink it. They're just in the Pacific Ocean. But it truly is a social experiment as to what would happen with this society that's considered the best of everything. And really, it's not just this particular society, but it's humanity. What would happen if we put a bunch of people on an island, trap them there? What would happen? How long would their societal norms and well, I don't know, democracy, if that's your thing, how long would that take stick around? Would it stick around permanently? Would they be able to instantly build up a civilization, or would it devolve into chaos and anarchy? How long would that take? What would be the steps? And what would make this better? Let's make them children. And the thing that you just have to keep thinking about, and I forget this, not at the start of the story, but as we go chapters by chapters and it gets more intense, these are kids. The little ones that they talk about, those are 6-year-olds. I don't know if you guys have any brothers or sisters or nephews, cousins that are 6. That's kindergarten. I mean, they're teeny tiny, and those are the little ones. And the oldest, Jack and Ralph, they're like 12. And so that's 5th, 6th grade over here. And they are making these adult decisions. And in the first few chapters, they do a pretty good job of trying to keep order. And they make some choices like, okay, good job. Nice. Okay, well, this might work. Piggy needs to make a list so that they can know who all is there. Okay, that's kind of a mature thing to think about. All right, good job. Hey, the conch, only whoever holds the conch shell, they can talk. Okay, they're making some choices. And so as things become more chaotic, maybe more violent, I'm not going to spoil anything. Then I kind of forget, all the way up until the last 2 or 3 pages, and don't skip ahead. You don't think of them as children. If you truly read it, by the end, you forget that they're kids until the last few pages. And then you're like, oh my gosh, wow. And this is one of those moments and reveals that I'm jealous that you're going through this for the first time, because it truly is a journey. And, I would love to know what you guys think of it when you truly get to the end. So I guess just getting started, that was the background, and it's important to have this idea of setting going in your head as we start to paint a picture. As you read a book, I don't know if you're like me, you kind of start creating this painting in your mind. What do these people look like? What's the setting look like? The exposition of the story, if you've studied the plot structure of a story, exposition is the first step. And then climax and, resolution at the end. We have to spend, I think this is the longest chapter in the book, chapter 1, The Sound of the Shell, because we have to introduce characters. We have to introduce setting. We have to introduce time period, a conflict. What potential conflict could there be? And we see it right away, with potential rift between Jack and Ralph, as semi 2 alpha males, I guess they would be considered the alpha males here. And so they, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to share. Golding does, so that we can carry. If you skip over the exposition, and this is what I was saying earlier, if you just read Spark Notes and that they used to be called Cliff Notes when I was little, summarized versions, you'll never care about the people. And so it's truly vital for you to just soak it in and paint this picture so that when the action happens around the island, you have some sort of an idea as to, what's truly going on. Names. Oh, we were talking about this earlier, and I don't know if Nour, you shared this with your students. You asked me about Piggy's name. Did you guys talk about this at all on your own?
No, we haven't actually. We have? We haven't talked about it yet. No, we haven't.
Okay. Can we talk?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. You asked me a question last week. Why did he name him Piggy? And you always felt really bad about having to refer to this kid as Piggy, knowing how much emotional damage it's causing this fictional character, right? And I was thinking about it in my reading of it. If you find those pages, and I'm not even going to give you the page, but you know how Piggy's always he asked Ralph, "What's your name?" And he said Ralph, and then Piggy, wait, he wants to be asked, and he doesn't. And eventually, Ralph does. What's your name? Piggy has an opportunity to share his name, but he doesn't. So I found that he could have called himself Steve or Rick or whatever, but he was like, well, as long as they don't call me, it's almost like, I don't want to say he wanted to be called Piggy, but his identity was always that. And also, how do none of these kids know each other? Are they a bunch of schools evacuated? How did they never bump in? Nobody knows anybody? Well, Jack and the choir boys know each other, but no one else seems to know each other. I find that very strange, but that might be another plot hole. But Nour, I thought about it with your question as I read it, and he had an opportunity to be called something else. Now, I I grew up with a lot of young men who, when we were kids, they would have nicknames for everybody. I still think that even if he went by Bob, if his name was Bob, it's just a random name. I don't know where it came from. That if his name was Bob, I think he still would have been poked at and prodded at and made fun of. As they talk about, they make fun of, calling him fatty and, poking his stomach, and the descriptions of Golding about the little boy being more portly than other kids. So those are just some little random thoughts that I had based on our conversation last week. I think that Golding did end up writing that his name was Piggy, but if we just focus on the character analysis of it, Piggy had a chance to identify himself as anything but Piggy. And he chose not to. He chose it, and he really held on to that resentment with Ralph once Ralph shared it. Let's see, Jack. Another thing with names, Jack Meridew, when they're finding out his name, he doesn't want to be called Jack. His name is Meridew, and it's even written in the book, Meridew said. And then from then on out, it's Jack. But I found that interesting because as thinking of the society, the time period, very military. In military, especially over here, it's by your rank, captain, a corporal, lieutenant, whatever those are. But it's always your last name. So they would not have called Jack, hey, Jack, come here. It would have been Meridew, get over here, and him identifying by, no, I'm Meridew. I'm in charge of the choir. I think that's just a little, and it's really only like 3 lines that it happens. And I've never noticed it before. If I did, I forgot about it 10 years ago, but just, it's amazing. The more times you go through it, you pick up on little things that you never saw before. And it goes, oh, that makes a little bit more sense about Jack's character. And that's why I was saying earlier, an additional exposure to the material is vital. The going over it multiple times. And so again, we find these little kids, running around, and they are kids, and those little ones are, playing and running around. Some strip down to their clothes, some pull their pants down and come shuffling out, and they never pulled them back up. They just forgot about it. I don't know how you forget about it, but these are kids smeared in food. You know, they've already, these little ones, they need some sort of parental or adult figure around, because there you can see that if they were left to make choices, things would not go very well for them. And keep in mind, whether it's from your family, you know, your relatives or friends, always just keep in your mind the age group of these particular individuals. Let's see here. Some of those ideas. And again, I'm just going by my notes. And so if there's anything you guys want to talk about more, we can talk about it. You know, I guess maybe make a note and we can go over it later. So if I skip something that you were like, hey, I'm curious about this, or what do you think about that? Please bring that up. The conch shell is important. You know, this is one of the main symbols of the book. If you're looking for symbolism throughout, you know, this is the one that is law and order. Whoever holds it gets to talk. And we see that tested in the first few chapters, especially when Piggy picks it up, because, you know, Jack does not respect Piggy, but he keeps going, I got the conch shell. In Britain, I think they call it conch, but over here it's conch. So I got the shell. You must listen to me. That's the rule. We have to have rules. And they just really hit that, you know, quite a bit. Some of the other, so that's one of the decisions that shows maturity. You know, they decide to elect a chief. These kids decide to hold a democratic election where everybody's vote counts as one. Not everybody in America, not everybody's had the right to vote. Women have barely had 100 years with the vote here in America. And these kids in, you know, was it the 50s? So 70 years ago, you know, they decide we're going to have a vote. And that was a really interesting thing to see, because Jack walks in with his set of guaranteed votes. And then Ralph pretty much gets the votes because he's the one who summoned everybody with the shell, which he wouldn't have except for Piggy. Piggy is one of those. Piggy's almost a symbol of himself, of any, you know, more than anything else. You know, he's intellect. They give him the glasses. You know, we have a phrase over here, you know, nerds, glasses. I wear glasses, well, contacts now, but they make fun of him with the glasses. They make fun of him for being smart. And I know that as we talked with the name Piggy, there's a lot of compassion that we should have for this particular character. Maybe even so more than anybody else. You know, Ralph seems to be the main character. You hate to say good guys and bad guys. We use the term protagonist and antagonist, and not every story necessarily has to have a bad guy, but every story with conflict, there is an antagonist. An antagonist, by definition, is one who antagonizes somebody. I had a sister. I do have a sister. When we were kids, she antagonized me. So if I was she annoyed me. She frustrated me. Do you guys have any relatives that frustrate you sometimes? You know, they're your antagonists. It does not have to mean a bad guy, okay? A villain, a Darth Vader. It doesn't have to be that. And so, you know, whether Ralph is the lone protagonist, but he's definitely seems to be the leader that we're supposed to follow. But Piggy is the one that I think readers with a heart should feel for him, because, you know, whether it's talking about the fire or the need to explore, you know, all of these different things. Well, I think that he wants to go on the exploration, but they don't let him. But he just has a lot of ideas throughout. So just kind of keep an eye on that as we develop more skills along the way. You know, the development of Simon. Simon starts out as a kid who faints in this chapter. And by the end of chapter 3, he's off exploring the island, finding this little hideout, this little place to hang out at. And so it's neat to see the evolution of characters. And again, if you don't read the story, you don't care. So things that Piggy does or Simon does, or things happen to certain characters, you know, there's no ownership on your part as a reader. And so seeing those growths, seeing the choices they make, it just makes it more fun. It gives you an escape from life, from your reality, to go into this magical world and go on an adventure. Let's see what else. Oh, there was a cool moment here. And again, this first chapter probably spend more time talking on this than the next couple. But the choices again that they make that are very mature for their age. The moment that Ralph wins the election, Jack is, this is a very stressful situation potentially, because are they going to respect the vote? What's going to happen? And so Ralph decides, hey, you can be in charge of the hunters. You can be in charge. You get to pick. You get to pick. That's right. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? And he goes, we'll be hunters. We be hunters, I guess, to play. And we'll see what happens with that down the road. Jack likes to stand up and slam his knife into things as intimidation, like, challenge me. I'm going to slam it. Say something, just like that. And I'm imagining it's like a little pocket knife, a little Swiss Army knife thing, but it's something. And it's more than what anybody else has. It's so small, it'd be like sharpening a little stick, but it's something. It's not a big old hunting knife, it's nothing like that. And there's a fun moment with a pig later on, but they decide we got to go on. You see this in movies. You see this anytime somebody's on an island, in books. Robinson Crusoe, a famous shipwreck literature, had to do it. There was a movie, Castaway, with Tom Hanks. I don't know if you're familiar with that movie, probably about 20 years ago. The first thing you got to do once you figure out you're safe, you got to climb up to the highest point you got to find out, is this just an island or is it just a beach? Because if it's just a beach, you can just walk around and keep walking and then find a city or something. And so Jack, Ralph, and Simon, they decide, okay, we're going to go up to the highest point, and that way we can do a 360 all the way around look and see if it truly is an island, because that changes things. And we have to understand it and know what's going on. The main thing to focus here, spoiler, it's an island. But there was a moment here, and I don't know if you talk too much about it in class. They're up there with a big boulder, and they just start rocking it and push it, and it just rolls down. And this isn't some small boulder. This is a massive thing that's just wreaking havoc, exploding trees, anything that's in its way. It's just causing a lot of damage. And they're smiling and laughing. But the thing to focus on here, especially since you got the two leaders here, is the bonding. And this is a moment where I don't see them as adults. This is a moment where you see, just in that moment, they're kids again. And you get to see it when they start to build the fire. Next chapter, I don't know. It's in the next chapters, the one after. But you see, okay, yeah, and you see those moments where they go back to just being kids and they're playing. You're like, this is what we're talking about. One of the themes of this book, and we'll mention it at the end when we're done, loss of innocence. And you can apply this to so many different stories and in real life. Think of the kids in Ukraine right now, the stuff that they're going through, loss of innocence. They're being robbed they're experiencing things they shouldn't experience, and in this novel, they shouldn't have to make life and death decisions. And as things do, and this is where I wish we were further down the book, but when this story wraps up, I don't know how, and especially since they're there for so long. And look, there are moments throughout, like where it talks about when Jack's hunting and he's smelling the droppings, and it's still warm, which is disgusting, but you do you, Jack. But they talk about how long his hair is, more than, and they talk about how he's thinner, and they'll talk about how clothes are falling. So they're there a long time. It's impossible that these kids are not going to be impacted by something down the road. They're probably going to need therapy, the post-traumatic stress, something down the road. And that's that loss of innocence. So when we get to see moments of them in their innocence, you're like, oh, that's right. They're kids. yeah, I probably would have done that too, playing around. And it gives them a freedom, an escape from being an adult. Being adult, as you guys are getting older, there's a lot of stress involved. Just a lot of, oh, really, I got to deal with this. Oh, I got to go, I got to pay for this. Oh, just so many little things. And so when you can escape and go and do something, for me, spend time with my kids, that Star Wars podcast that I just started up, those are escapes that I get to get away and do. And so with these moments, and again, it was just a moment, but in a chapter of exposition, they are important as a foundation for building an understanding of these characters. So just as you go, and those are note taking in books. It's we call them annotating, and I don't know if I can show you really quick. I'll find a good one, Bob. Find one that'll show up on camera. Okay. I don't know. Can you see that there's some underlining?
Yeah.
There's color. I wrote in the margins a little bit. And you can come up with your own theory of things. I underline key lines because when I taught on the videos, I reference the book and I read some lines. Ooh, look at this line when they say this. And I don't have it well, I kind of had them memorized back then, but not anymore. But key moments, key descriptions. This moment here, I would have had circled and talked about, maybe put a little star, of importance. Because when you give an analysis in writing, people ask your opinion on something. Are you more a fan of Jack or Ralph? Are you Team Jack or Team Ralph, and why? That's where it's not just your opinion. You need to back it up with textual evidence, support from the book. And so it helps to jump back and skim and find where you made little notes. It gives you another option of exposure to the content that I talked about. And it truly does help over time, in order to help with your level of understanding. So let's see. Where are we at? Coming back from the top of the mountain. We're almost done with the chapter. Excuse me real quick. Top of the mountain, they start heading back down and they come across the pig. And this was really interesting because they trap it. They're about ready to, have a shot at killing it. Jack pulls out his knife, if you want to call it a knife, whatever his stabby pokey thing is. So he pulls that out, and this is a really telling part. Okay, a lot of foreshadowing that happens here, but also it establishes, they are just kids. Jack can talk all the big game he wants, but they are just kids as of right now. And so he pulls the blade up, but he doesn't stab down at the pig. He doesn't kill it. And there's a line here that said the pause was only long enough for them to understand what an enormity the downward stroke would be. So he knows, I could bring it down, but I'd be taking a life. I would be killing. I don't do that. I'm in charge of the choir because I can hit a high C note. What sort of seriously? Authority is given because who can sing a high C? But that's what was important, in that in his group of people. But they knew, and he can talk all he wants, but you got to actually do it. And in order to save face, to not be embarrassed, when Ralph asks him, why didn't you kill it? Jack slams his knife into a tree trunk again, and he says, next time. And then done with the first chapter. And so that's one of the things that you see Jack, as that kid, but you have society, you have, you shouldn't take this life or kill this thing, or he hasn't any, he doesn't have any experience doing it. He's all talk, and next time it's going to be different. But at this particular moment, first chapter, We need to just soak it in. We need to download all of this information that Golding wants to send our way. And that's a big one, because Jack has been the most aggressive. Let's go with that word. The most aggressive person so far. And to see a weakness of his, and a weakness he acknowledges, but he says he will not repeat it. It will not happen again. It will not happen again.
Can I interrupt you for a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the book, if you notice how the narrator always gives us something. So here he says, next time there will be no mercy. And this is the narrator himself or herself, because we don't know whether the narrator is a man or a woman. How can we link that to the theme? Like, how, like, if we go along the chapters and we see how the narrator sometimes gives us details that he wouldn't otherwise know unless he's one of the characters, but he's still, you know, not a character. And I say that because at the beginning, we don't know the names. Usually narrators tell us the name. He's calling the boy with the fair hair, and he keeps calling Piggy the fat boy. And then here he says, next time there will be no mercy. So how do we feel about the narrator? Can we trust the narrator in this novel? Do you think it's possible to trust him here?
Can we trust him? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, as a narrator, because usually, you know,
Yeah,
narration is more, you know, trusted than first person narration.
Yeah. Gosh, it would be interesting to see this book in a different perspective. You know, if it was solely from Ralph's point of view, you know, where he is or Piggy, that could have been interesting. You know, that could be a fun writing activity. And I think I did a journal at one point, you know, take a moment, any moment from the story, and write it from one character's perspective. Because then we wouldn't know anything at all unless it was spoken, you know, other than that first character, that main character. I think at this particular point, you know, we do trust, and we have to trust, you know, whether we see, you know, all truths and I wouldn't say lies, but maybe some faults, you know, of certain characters. You know, Golding is pumping Jack up to be one thing, but then he's not that, or at least not that yet. And as he acknowledges next time, so it shows humanity is faulty. You know, and with the children, as the story goes on, we forget that they are children, but the rules of humanity still apply to children. And so I'm not quite sure if I don't know if I've given a great answer, but I trust where we're at. I don't feel anything being lied about. Later in the story, there could be, when it gets a little darker, do you know what I'm kind of getting at, Nour? You know, you get a little bit further along, there could be some interesting discussions pertaining to some of the things that happen. Yeah. Do you guys, do you want to pause? Is there anything you want to talk about in chapter one? We can just go chapter by chapter. Since the next two are shorter.
Okay, sure. But can we like focus on the themes, because we need to get to the question answer session. So can we just, you know, take it theme by theme instead of chapter by chapter?
We can. I kind of walked, you know, had something kind of walking through, but you know, yeah. What do you get? What would you like to jump to? Is there something you want to make sure you get?
I think we already talked about loss of innocence, and I think the last line you mentioned about how next time there would be like it would be different. I think this is how we see Jack changing from this young boy who looks like he's brave and looks like he's capable of killing into a young boy who's like in charge. I don't want to spoil things, but he's in charge of an entire gang that goes about and hunts, but does not hunt animals. So maybe we can go through that section.
Yeah. He gosh, there's so much.
It's okay. Spoil things for them. It's their fault.
I can't do that.
It's their fault.
Because then I would have lied, and I can't do that. No, there's a lot of different kinds of hunting. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, okay. And with the hunting at the beginning, you know, they weren't really hunting when they stumbled on that pig, but the action of, oh, here's an opportunity, and you fail. And as we see him, I think it's the third chapter where he's more animal-like. Okay. And we talk about you know, some of the themes of civilization, you know, savagery, turning to savages. There's some, you know, whether it's through their longer hair or their ratty clothes ripping. There's something really interesting with regards to you know, turning, losing your perspective in your way. Take note as you go through this story of language and memory. There's a little boy, I think he's a little one. His name's Percival, if I remember right. I don't think it's in the first 3 chapters. But Percival, and I'll spoil this, this is nothing. But Percival, when they ask him his name, you know, I remember when I was a kid and I went to school, my folks had me memorize our phone number and address. So I could say my whole name and address and phone number. So if I ever got, I don't know, lost, somebody found me, I could spout this off. And so Percival spouts off his address and where he's from and his full name. But over the course of the book, he starts forgetting it. And if I remember correctly, even at the very end, he almost even forgets his name. That's just how things fall apart, you know, and how much time has passed. You know, and some of the stuff with regards to themes and conflicts, you know, it's very much, you know, we talk about man versus man, you know, where you have 2 people fighting, you know, or man versus nature, like the movie Castaway that I referenced. You know, it's just one man stuck on an island against the elements, okay, against nature. But man versus self is one that I think is very important for this book. Excuse me. So as you you know, as you go through the book, it might be nice to keep a chart as to you know, the different moments and how they fall in the conflict chart. Like I said, man versus self, you know, thinking in, because, oh, we didn't even talk about it, but like the beasties, they talk about the beasties, I think, in the next chapter. You know, and all of a sudden they have the presence of something else on the island, because they established that there's nobody else on the island. It's uninhabited from what they could see on top of the mountain. Yes, there are things to hunt and pigs and things like that, but all of a sudden there could be something hunting them on the island, and that creates a lot of fear for people, and everybody processes fear in a different way. So that's a big one that I'd keep focus on as you move forward. Nour, is there something next?
Maybe we can move to the question answer session,
That would be, well, yeah, that sounds wonderful.
or if you'd like us to first discuss, like before the question answer, maybe we can start the discussion on 2 parts. If there were grown-ups and if there were women or girls on the island, what would go different?
I would love to know what you guys think. You know, my opinions are just, you know what I mean? There's nothing bounding them to authority at all. You know, I'd be curious. Have you guys come up with kind of a general idea, or is everybody differing in their own opinions?
Okay, so this is a question to everyone. Again, I don't want to spoil what happens, but at some point the boys start getting into trouble. They start, you know, they're turning to groups and they start going against each other and so on. So the question is, if, and we know that all of the characters are boys, what would go differently if there were women on the island, if there were females? And what would go differently if they were all females? What do you think? They would fight over the women. Yeah. Okay, so what do you think? Yes, please come in, come here. Yeah. Can you hear us well? You can't
No.
hear. You can't hear us? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
What's your question? What do you think's going to happen?
I think they will become or think smartly to live together in like what happening in just films and the movies that they will rescue maybe, or they will work together to think smartly and how they gonna live, and maybe they will build a house or a home on the
Yeah.
trees, like up the big trees and like the movies.
Yeah.
I think that.
So basically,
No, I think you have it sounds like a great story. I think that if they get rescued, you want to make like, is it going to be too late? You know, are they going to turn too much chaotic? Will they even be able to be recognizable as the disciplined English kids that they were, the well-structured kids? So that's something to keep an eye on as the story ramps up. Yeah, for sure.
so basically, she's saying that if there were girls on the island,
Yeah. Oh, I'm see. I forgot what the question was.
yeah,
Fantastic. Houses. Yes.
it would be
You know
like
what? Let me just say, I don't have an answer for this, but the smartest people, the most organized people that I've ever met it's not men. So I think a lot would get done. I would love to watch this story with just women. You know, I think you're right on. I think I bet their huts would be better. And it talks about Ralph. He spent 2 days and it's barely standing. You know what? No, you guys, you'd handle it. I have no doubt. But it would be really interesting. And I heard somebody joking back there that they would fight for the women or whatever. I'm trying to think back. You know, in 5th or 6th grade, did boys and girls, did they see each other as opposite sex? You know what I mean? Where there with attractions weren't there. They might have been a little flirting, but everybody, you know, maybe that was later. If this was high school, I taught high school for 15 years. I know about hormones and stuff in high school. That would have been nuts. You know, just a Lord of the Flies high school version. But I know now that I remember the question, I really like what I liked your idea. That would have been a good read.
I think if they were all women, I think they would have fought too. Like if all of them were women, yeah, they would have, the girls among themselves, yeah, of course they would fight and kill each other. Probably sooner than the boys. Probably
See
sooner.
that?
Rezan.
Yeah.
So
Hello, Mr. Bob.
Bob's fine. Hi.
I actually watched the 2 versions of the movie and read the whole novel, so there's nothing to spoil for me. But I'm afraid to spoil.
Good. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful.
Okay. The question was, what would be different if all of them were women? I think women would care a lot about, or care mostly about, being rescued than getting used to living in an inhabited island. I mean, we saw how the kids, the first thing they thought about was taking off their clothes and jumping in the beach and swimming and stuff.
Right.
I personally, as a girl, if I was thrown in an island, inhabited island, all alone, I would freak out.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't think about just swimming and this stuff. So I think women would be more organized, caring a lot about being rescued. I mean, we saw how they're made up rules. They made, I don't want to say fake, but made up. They started to fall apart real quick. They forgot about Jack's rules and keeping the fire and wanting to be rescued.
Right.
Yeah, they went after Jack, who got the meat. Jack got the power as getting the meat. So they're now getting start to think how to get used to living there. So I think women wouldn't be like that.
That's fantastic. I have no doubt they would be very goal oriented and focused. And it's like, listen, we're not going to play around. We're not going to do this stuff. We're going to get, yeah. And I thought it was very mature of them to say, we need to get a smoke. We made a fire, but we need to make smoke. It needs to be up top so we can see it. ideas, but they lack the maturity and the that you're saying would be on the island. And I totally agree that, women would be more focused. And I don't know if that's being, I don't want to say that it's not being sexist, but I value, what you're saying. And I'm thinking straight up, you're right. It would be much like that.
I don't want to generalize, but women, I mean, normally we don't seek power. Like the kids were, Ralph, for example, didn't ask to be a leader. He was chosen. He was given that position. But for Jack, the other way, he wanted that. But for women, I believe it would be different.
I got a question for you real quick.
Okay.
Of the characters, who is the most female like in those qualities, would you say, from the story?
Simon. He was a unique, kind boy. I mean, I love that character.
Simon.
I would go for Piggy.
Yeah.
I would go for Piggy.
Oh, okay.
As one of the main, he's the one trying to keep him on track, right? He's the one kind of coming up with ideas and trying to keep them goal oriented.
Actually, Biggie was like the hidden soldier. He had all the answers. They did the work. He did the thinking.
Yeah, those were the two I was thinking of as well. So thank you so much for sharing. And please do not spoil it for them. Let them go on that journey. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I also wanted to, maybe we could discuss the concept of democracy when we started talking about voting. Now, did it make sense for a voting to go that way? I mean, shouldn't there have been certain criteria? Like you said, having the C note wasn't enough to make a leader. And having the conch wasn't enough to make Ralph a leader, especially that he was not the one to find it. And at the beginning, he didn't know how to use it, right?
Yeah, he had to be shown, right? Without Piggy.
Yeah, without Piggy, he wouldn't have called in anyone. And Piggy was the one to call for everyone's information and names. And he was the one to tell them, let's start building a shelter. So I think that it tells us something about politics. And maybe I might go extreme here and say that we are shown those leaders, the presidents and everyone in charge and in control, that they're there because they have certain attributes that should not be the attributes of a leader. And even though I'm against the whole process of voting, I think if we go along the novel, we see that Jack would have made a better leader. And personally, I really vote for him as a leader. Why? Because if you go along the novel again, you'd see that he's the one who's making the tough calls. And when one of the kids, the one with a scar, he said that he saw a beastie.
Yeah.
Ralph denied it. I think that was the representation of presidents who denied the existence of a problem. You have a kid who says he saw a beast. And he keeps saying, no, he didn't. There's no beast. There's no beast. But then here we go with Jack. Jack was like, if there's one, we'll kill it. So I think that makes up a better leader because, okay, of course, he's horrible and how he treated Piggy was horrible and so on. But again, I think the qualities that we need in someone who would make decisions suit Jack better. I felt that Ralph was always questioning things, I
guess you gotta remember what's the goal, what's the end game, right? And I think that is a wonderful. Students, did you see how this is something I have not heard of, taking Jack and supporting him as leader just because he is that antagonist. So you're kind of going to the dark side with this. And I love it because she used all of this evidence that we talked about. Whatever your opinion is, as long as you back it up with textual support, it can't be wrong. Because look, this is just my opinion based on what's in here. It's not me just making stuff up. See, here in America, we had a president a few years ago who, I don't know if you were aware, just kind of made stuff up. And
to make America great again.
Gosh.
It's fun. But he did make America great again,
Oh my goodness. I don't want to go into that stuff. But anyways, I really loved what you had to say about Jack. Some of the tough decisions, you can't, ignore. You got to jump right out and have a plan. I guess Jack would have been the end of, even though he's in charge of just choir boys, right? It's just choir kids, but you see how they march around, right? You see how they deal, how they have authority figures, Jack. And so he has more experience. He might have been the safer choice. And with the democracy aspect, since you brought that up, everybody gets a vote. Why should the kid who can't even pull his pants up?
Exactly. Why should they get a vote?
Why should that? But then we come, well, and it's a great discussion and debate. So only 10 years and up, only kids who understand what a vote is, and that can be really an interesting discussion. But for these kids setting up their own little government really quick, I think that's just the first one that jumps. Okay, everybody gets a vote. Raise your hands. Who wants to, have pizza for lunch? Who wants to have chicken for lunch? They're used to just raising their hands, and whoever has the most wins. And but that's not the idea of that's not the best idea necessarily. And again, retroactively, we can say that this isn't a good idea. We've seen the story, you know what I mean? So I loved your idea about that. That's very fascinating.
And regarding what you said, Ralph said that we're going to raise our hands the way we do at school. He actually references that. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We have a student with a question too. Yes.
Please. I don't know how much more time do you have? I have plenty, but I don't know how much you guys have.
We have like 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Do you just control us, okay, Nour, so that we get whatever you need us to do.
Yeah, women power and all, right?
Oh, right on, man. Yeah.
Anyone has a question? If I think if you would like to ask, like, not only related to the novel, about how to study literature, right? You can help us answer such questions.
Yep.
Yeah, Tal. So we have a student.
Fantastic. Come on down.
I have smart students, yeah.
Yeah. You're very lucky.
So first of all, hello. It's a big honor to be here with you. There's something that I really was curious about. The first 3 chapters of the novel, there was many evidences. I've wrote them in my novel, but I can't really pick it. Ralph didn't want to be the alpha of the group of these boys, but after they summoned the other boys with the shell, and he was the one who told the group that his name is Piggy. He like stole his chance of telling his name.
Yes.
Can we say that this has something to do with Ralph knew that Piggy was a smart boy, he was intelligent, he was the one who told him how to use the shell to call the other people. Does this have anything that Ralph didn't want anyone to be better than him in front of the other boys?
That is a fantastic question. That I think that goes, remember when we were talking about this a bit ago, that I think regardless of Piggy's name, he still would have been made fun of, right? Because he was different. He was fat. He was nerdy. He was everything that Jack and stuff wasn't. Gosh, if I thought about this 10 years ago, I've forgotten it. So fantastic observation. These are little boys. And I would agree that Ralph was not somebody who sought power. And sometimes good leaders in movies, they don't seek, these authoritative positions, but it's thrust upon them, right? And they have to take charge because they're the best fit. But I could see that. I could see totally Ralph acting like a kid, acting like when they're putting wood on and him and Jack are smiling at each other or pushing a rock down a hill. I totally could agree that he is, putting down Piggy to make himself feel better, so I guess Ralph is a bully, no different than Jack, at least in that issue. You know what I mean? In that particular moment. Yeah, interesting. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to just, I noticed that in chapter 1 that even you said that Biggie is they are in a comedian way to just to have a just to smile or have to laugh about this name or in a comedian way. But I think this is a real maybe a real message to just for bullying in the children. This is so happening in the school that there is bullying with the children, and this a good message to stop bullying. And
Totally.
Biggie just Biggie is just really I just noticed what's the real name. I want to know. Yani,
We all want to know.
I want to know. So
Yeah, Piggy knows, but Piggy's not sharing. You know, maybe it's some name that he just doesn't really like. You know, maybe it's a name that could be both a girl and a boy. And, you know, there's a name, Leslie, you know, that could be a man or a woman, you know, over here. And maybe he doesn't want to go that name because he'll be ridiculed. But you're right. Bullying. This is think again, this is a 70-year-old book, and bullying was present. And we still see this in schools, you know, so it is a representation of kids of that age, but it still stinks, you know, and it still is like, come on, look at the damage. Look at the damage that it's doing to this kid. Especially later in the book, it gets worse.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to add a final note before we finish up. And I always thought about this. Like, he could have gone, like, the bad name could have been Fatty, for example. So I think part of calling him Piggy and the fact that we have Jack hunting pigs, and maybe that just foreshadows.
Oh,
Yeah, I did just spoil the thing.
yeah.
It's
No,
fine.
that's a great.
So they're hunting pigs and they're going to hunt Piggy. Just another pig, you know, to kill. Yeah.
Totally. I never made that connection with all the pigs on the island. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was just trying to be really deep as I read it, and I didn't see it at face value that they're hunting pigs and he's called Piggy. And then, you know, they keep jabbing at his stomach and poking at him, whether it's figuratively or literally, they're trying to stick the piggy, you know?
Yeah. So just, you know, again, at some point, their vision was too blurry to distinguish between a human and a pig.
Yeah, and without spoiling it, but Nour, this is very similar to when they're doing their fire dance on the island.
Yes.
You know, and that's where you can have a great conversation at that point, because things change forever at that moment.
Okay, so I think we should. A big round of applause, and like 100 and plus new fans, huh?
Oh, okay, guys, this was awesome. This was the best use of my morning. I mean, yeah, I could have slept a little bit more, but you can sleep when you're dead. You know what I mean? This is awesome. This has been a true treat and a pleasure. You guys, your insight, the questions, you know, what your professor shared with me, you guys are very intelligent young women who I have no doubt are going to be very, very successful in whatever you do. But please read the book and talk about it. And those that have seen a movie, books are sometimes different than movies. You know, especially the 1990 movie version, it's a little bit different. So, but anyways, enjoy it. And this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Nour. I appreciate it.
I'll send you the recorded video, okay?
Okay. Yeah, let's connect later on email or something. Just chat if you need to.
Okay. See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.